What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of How You Do That podcast. I'm your host, Michael Rentfrow. With us today, I've got the one, I've got the only, Nevil the Shed.
That's me. How are we doing today? Really fired up to be here with you.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. Well, it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here with you, sir. I mean, you're a legend in and of your own right. NCAA champion, Texas West, excuse me, with Texas Western. Y'all made history so much so that they even made a movie over that. For the folks watching at home, I guess if you want to introduce yourself.
All right. Once again, my name is Nevil Shed. I was born in New York City, the South Bronx there. Famous basketball players, along with myself, have came out of that particular area. And just all the stuff that I've been blessed with, right up to this opportunity to sharing some of my past, present, and the future with you all. Glad to be with you, people.
Oh, yes, sir. And you're a Hall of Famer. You made history. I was watching the movie again last night, and it's extremely inspirational on how you paved the way for so many in the sport, and not just in the sport of basketball, but in life in general. You grew up in a time where unfortunately there was significant conflict and there was a lot of tension going on. Would you mind sharing what it was like growing up through those times and then overcoming those obstacles?
Well, when you look back, I'm from once again the South Bronx, New York City here. A youngster that shall I say grew up with a lot of dreams, and sometimes the dreams had a lot of problems with it. Everyone had a journey, and I knew that my journey consisted of journeys of trials. But I was blessed with a mother and father who, can I say, all the things of mom, when I grow up, I want to be. And she always said that that'll happen if you work hard, but it's a lot of challenges that you'll have to go through and maintain those things. And being coming from a family that was religious and always putting God first in my life. And with me, I said that, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a professional basketball player, and it was hard back then. But she said that you can have, that you can accomplish that. But you got to also remember, you better get a good education. What if you ever get hurt? You better have something else to fall back on. And, without a dream or a passion for something, one cannot receive his or her provisions. And I was the type of kid, we lived in an apartment house, and we lived on the fourth floor. And my father and my mother, they sheltered me a lot from being, for a long time, hanging out with the fellas downstairs. And around my neighborhood, yes, there were gangs, there were drugs, and a lot of the things that maybe we've still going through those things today. And with me being out there looking out of the fourth floor window, saying, man, I wish I can get out there and wanting to accomplish these dreams that I have. Uh, having that support and being really focused on, just, maintain the goals that you have, maintain the dreams that you have, but there's a whole lot of journeys that you will have to accomplish. Just saying, I want to be a basketball player, there will be challenges. And I was willing to accept those challenges and never thought that God would have blessed me with the things right up to this day of a happy, healthy, shall I say, young 81-year-old man, to say that, my goal today, throughout all the challenges that I have accomplished, I wake up in the morning thanking God for another day, but I also say that I want to help somebody. I want to, tell them about, some of the things of taking negative energies and turning them into positive actions. And this is what our society, are striving for. And just to be part of that, and people say that, Nevil, you are a legend. We're all legends when you're accomplishing things. When you're saying those dreams that you have, you're being challenged with things, having a strong background support. And I'm saying the mothers, the fathers, the coaches, the pastors, someone that you can look up to. And in my life, I did have quite a few people, not knowing who they were then, but later on, when some of them said, Nevil, make me proud. It sound good there, but good Lord, I wish that some of them left this world before they were able to see the accomplishments that I, was blessed with. But now this is one of my big challenges: giving back to others. When you give back, you will receive. It's a great feeling to me when I walk up to people or people see me. And it's funny that they'll see me and say, "Hey, how tall are you?" And I say, "Well, I'm 6'8". "Well, can I take a picture of you?" And I say, "Sure." So they always say, "Slide over, George." I said, "Wait a minute now. I am not George Gervin. I'm Nevil Shed." And even though we have both accomplished some great things here, and he's a great friend of mine, and if you want to ever call me a name, I think I can accept the name, the Iceman, but I'm the Shadow. And it's just, I think, a small thing. I think we both have the same birthday. I'm not going to tell you what that is, and I'll start getting all types of calls there. But it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, and just to be on your program, which I think that you are something very powerful because you are delivering a message with so many different uh, challenges for us to come and voice their own opinions. And with me, that is something that I'm also trying to do, from my past. And, I never would ever say I have all the answers, but I'm a good listener. I'm a good listener. And to say how it was yesterday, well, at the age of 81, praise God, I do have a lot to talk about in bringing ourselves up to the present.
That's all. And at a towering stature of 6'8", you were the tallest on the team, correct?
Yes, sir. 6'8", weighed 180, gosh no pounds. And I think they gave me the greatest name, the Shadow. But playing against the bigger guys, but I was well equipped because of the great coach that I had, and I learned to master my trade very well, which helped me not just in before I got to college and high school. I had quite a few awards and was offered a lot of scholarships, schools that I could not attend because they were not allowing Afro Americans to attend those schools. And part of my journey had a lot of downs, but I had the opportunity to go to school. To a college, that was something I said to my parents. Hey, mom. Hey, dad. I'm on my road. Not saying the glory, but I'm on my road to what I want to accomplish by being a professional basketball player. But I went to a school in the South.
El
And
Paso, Texas, correct?
no, before then it was North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, North Carolina. That
Okay.
was my first year. And coming from New York City, where you're able to ride the bus, go to the restaurant, and to a certain extent, you can say I'm free. I can do what I want to do with is in the the base of the laws. But when I took my first trip, my father worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad. He was a Pullman porter,
Oh, cool.
so I was able to travel, for free. And I remember leaving the station in New York City and heading to Greensboro, North Carolina. I remember when I got halfway, I was able to sit in the coach's lounge, and I got to, I think it was Baltimore, and the conductor said that all colored people got to go to the back of the train. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm not going to the back of the train. I'm going to stay right here." And he said, "If you do not follow my orders, we'll have to remove you from the train." So, I said, "Okay, I'll go in the back." And that was like the first thing I said, "Man, I don't feel comfortable about this, but I'm going to college, mom. This is what I want. This is that dream to really head on as to what I'm hoping to be down the road." So, I rode the train. And then all of a sudden, when I got off the train, I had to ride a bus to get to the school. And then came another thing, got to sit on the back of the bus. And but I knew about those things. All the information that we have today with YouTube, iTunes, and all the types of phones and stuff that we can, have in our possession, we didn't have back then. I think the only really information that we had was two magazines. One was Jet magazine, and the other one was my mind is kind of slipping now, but that really told the story about how a lot of things were happening in the South and what have you. And I thought about those things, but I never really let it bother me at the time. But man, I was going to school, I was going to college. I had all these things that I worked hard to get to that point. And then there were times when I walked into an arena where there was a colored restaurant, whereas let's step back further than that. Let's say going to the restroom. There was a colored restroom and there was a white restroom. I knew that I had to you had to make that right choice of going to the colored restroom. If I would not, I possibly would have been in a lot of trouble. Water fountains, water is free, but there was a colored water fountain and there was a white water fountain. And I had to make that choice of knowing which one be sure to go into. And there were just so many things that I felt uncomfortable about, but I was willing to accept those things with my spirit was saying that, sometimes you gotta deal with the hard things to accomplish the easy things with the power of prayer. I always got to put that in there. So I stayed there for a year. I started as a freshman, and then they got to a point where I couldn't take this thing. And my parents always told me that, you are capable of making choices, but be able to back up what your choices are going to be. And I said, Mama, I got to get out of here. So she told me that, she said, young man, if you come back to New York, you either got to work or continue to go to college. So I I continued to work on my trade, but I started working at a fast food store, and I didn't like flipping burgers. That was something I didn't want to do. But there was a guy from Texas Western. I hope I'm not going too
Oh
long
no,
and
sir.
telling
No,
you.
no.
This guy from Texas Western College who lived in the Bronx and told Coach Don Haskins, also a Hall of Famer, told him about Willie Cager and myself. And this man never saw me play basketball, but he had someone, would you believe, a banker who just happened to be in New York City who found out where I lived. And he met my parents and I and said, we're willing to offer Nevil Shed 4 years, room, board, tuition, all fees paid to go to school in Texas. And I said, Texas? I said, well, only thing I thought about Texas was oil wells and cows. But anybody, if you ever been to El Paso, Texas, where I had to go, there was not a lot of oil wells and cows. My first plane ride, and I went with Willie Cager, another player on the national championship team, and we flying over these mountains and turning. If you ever been to El Paso, you'll know what I'm talking about. There was nothing but the Franklin Mountains, and there was desert. And when that plane finally landed, and they opened, they didn't have the bays like they have today in the airports. So we got out on the field, and that sand and that 100 and God knows amount of temperature it was. And I looked at Casey. I said, "Hey man, this is hell. This place here is not what I thought it was going to be. I don't see any cows, and there aren't any oil wells around it either." And then all of a sudden, coming out of the airport was this little fat guy. He reminded me of one of them Clint Eastwood movies. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And we looked at the guy here, but he introduced himself. And right from that start, a new era of my life began. The challenges were there, and just moving ahead, never thought of all the things that my teammates and I accomplished would ever continue to be something right up to this day.
You changed history, and that's for sure. And I mean, it's a tremendous blessing on what you did for the community as a whole, for humankind as a whole. How God was able to work through you and through your team.
Amen.
The 1966 Texas Western Miners. I mean, they definitely it was the first championship game in history to where they played all African American players for the team. Y'all showed up, showed out, you shined, you won. You won the game, and from that day forward, how do you feel that impacted college basketball, professional basketball, and also some of the unfortunate some of the unfortunates that were going on at that time? The heartless racism and things like that. Do you feel how many changes did you see result because of that?
Well, the first thing you got to remember that we were just a bunch of kids,
Right.
in college, having an opportunity to take your education to another level and to continue to play basketball. And for us, coming from several parts of the United States, and we were good ball players, not having the great names of some of the basketball players that we know today. And every game that when we first started, there was somewhat of a rule that I think, at home you can only play four Afro Americans, and on the road, it was you had a choice. You couldn't put five Afro Americans out there on the court at the same time. And for us, at first, we came from a run and gun type of environment and had to play for this man that he loved. He had to pass the ball around, but we were able to do those things. But never thinking about, as time went on, game after game after game, saying that we were trying to, you know, change the situations in our life that was going on, throughout the United States there. We were just playing one game at a time. Yes, there were times when people would walk up to us, and Coach Haskin he did a great job of shielding us from those things. Those look at those. They can't even spell. He probably got them out of the street or jailhouse. And we heard those things, but it was not saying, "Oh, okay, we're gonna show them what we can do, or we're going up against these white guys." We were prepared. Better still, let's say we were properly prepared each game that we went into, and fortunately, that year, starting one game after other, and it was great to hear people talking about wait till they play this team, wait till we play that team, not thinking about people who were looking at at that particular team as much as they could. Not looking at, oh, at first it wasn't five Afro Americans. And then later on, when the games got really hard, Coach Haskin took that chance. He always said that he's put the guys out there who he thought can get the job done. And it just so happened with those seven Afro Americans. The team itself consisted of the 12 athletes. We were like brothers and sisters. There wasn't any animosity of, how come they're playing this team and not playing, this guy here not playing myself. Because it took all 12 of us to bring that history into life today. But as time went on, it was the seven Afro Americans that really took can I not saying the weight, but took charge of the upper part of winning those games. And we always said, wait till hey, did you hear about that game there? What they're calling us names and everything. And we went to the games knowing what we had to do to win the games. You understand? And not thinking about, and I often wondered, not now, but back then, I said, I wonder what people are thinking about this now. They calling us these names. Well, they'll see in a few minutes here when we hit the floor. And we went into those games. And I cannot believe that not one time did we ever say, yeah, okay, uh, we got these whiteys out here, let's put it to them, That wasn't part of our character. And that's something that we are lacking today, even though that great episode of the Texas Western team, our character, that was something that was exposed all the time. All the antics that we see today, was not allowed back then. Even though the names that they called us, and I remember pushing forward in this conversation because I don't know how much time we have. There was a time, I was sitting on the bench at this time, and somebody behind me was come, hey, come on, you're not going to win this game. This is a big game. And I turned around, and Coach Haskins said, Neville, you turn back around. I said, but Coach, they're calling me. He said, is that who you really are? I said, but he said, is that who you really are? Look where you are now. And I said to myself, well, that's true. So when my time came to go into that game, we we showed them who we really were. We were a bunch of athletes about to play the greatest game of our lives. And, both teams, it was a great game because there wasn't a lot of, that negative thing that we see today with our great athletes. You know, we both represented ourselves very well because Coach Haskins and Mr. Rupp would not allow that. But the final episode of that game on March 9th, 1966, you know, Texas Western came out uh, the winners. And then a new era became in our life. Never thinking about what we've done, you know, and I think there was a lot of proud people, but yet we went through a lot of hell too. You know, it's a lot of problems, not just from the white people, but also from Afro Americans. That was the pain. Sometimes I wish I never would have won it because we were called Uncle Toms, you know, and all these type of things there. Rather than being proud of, hey man, we were just playing a game. You got to remember that now. You know, we playing a game here. The game that you're playing now. You know, character. You represent yourself. Work hard. You know, stay focused on what the challenge is ahead. And you're always guaranteed through no matter what the journey is before you, you can become a winner.
What who are some of your role models that you inspired you, that you looked up to in the world of basketball and also outside of the court?
Well, it was funny that, you know, it was told to me a long time ago without a dream or a challenge for something, you know, one cannot receive his or her provisions. And it just so happened that when I was on the court one time and the other guys wouldn't let me play with the big fellas then, you know, but I kept on playing by myself. And I was in a park, which was my gymnasium, uh, just doing, I guess, certain parts of the shooting, what have you. And this guy walked up and he said, "Boy, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing basketball." He said, "What kind of basketball are you playing there?" I said, "Well, I'm a basketball player." He said, "No, no, no, you don't want to be a basketball player. They come a dime a dozen. You want to become a great basketball player." And then he said, "How are your grades?" And I said, that famous word they use today, I. He said, I. And I still don't know how to spell I. But he said, "I can help you to become a great basketball player, but you better get a good education. What if you get hurt? You better have something else to fall back on." This man was telling me this, and when it went in out the other. Later on in my high school, I started, you know, in high school. You know, I was a high school All-American. I had quite a few scholarships, but a lot of those schools I could not attend, you know, because they were not allowing Afro Americans to attend those schools. And that's when I, stepping back in this conversation, I ended up at North Carolina A&T. And later on, after winning the national championship as a junior, I had one more year to play. And my idol at that time was Bill Russell.
Okay.
Bill Russell, man, you know, he was a guy, a great defensive player, you know, shot blocker. And I think that's how I got the name The Shadow. You know, the sports information director gave all the athletes nicknames. David Latin, Big Daddy Latin. Willie Cager, Scoops. Willie Worsley, Ironhead. You know, we all had Harry Flournoy, the cricket. So they first gave me a nickname and they called me the Tool. And I said, "Whoa, I don't think I can go with the name the Tool. You have to change that." But then again, he changed it to the Shadow. And people ask me, why did they call me the Shadow? Because I was a defensive specialist. I was able to hold the guards, the centers, whatever it was, you know, and that name carried on with me throughout my tender as a basketball player. Now you asked me about the great people that were around me. There was a guy by the name of John Isaac. He was a guy walking down the street, you know, saw me playing, and he started tutoring me. And later on, I found out he was director of a boys and girls club. It was called just the boys club then. And as I, you know, got better and better in high school, and I was on my way to college, he said to me, my nickname is Butch also. He said, "Butch, make me proud of you." And I said, look, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to college now. He said, but remember, education is also important, and your character, how you represent. You got to always remember now. To get this far, it was because of God, family, and basketball. That's how I say it now: God, family, and basketball. Not knowing who this guy was. Later on, I found out the guy who was walking down the street, his name John Isaac. He was on the first Afro-American professional team called the Harlem Renaissance, and he was a Hall of Famer. He was a Hall of Famer, and he was coaching me, and then I had other guys who were in the history. Satch Sanders, who played for NYU, also played for the Boston Celtics. And I grew up in a venue of some great basketball players in my neighborhood. Uh, Nate Tiny Archibald, uh, at the time, Lou Alcindor, I was ahead of him. And it was funny, one time I played this, he would not remember this. We were scrimmaging him. I was a senior, All-American. He was a freshman in high school. And I had the nerves to tell him, I said, hey, big fella, you keep on playing like this here, you're gonna turn out to be one heck of a basketball player. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then there were so many other people who are legends in the game of basketball that, I had the opportunity to work with that kept pushing me. And there were ups and downs in my life. And a short bunch of the super names, I always put John Isaacs, a guy named Hilton White, who also coached Tiny Archibald, Willie Cager. We all grew up in the same area, who were there in the background along with the representation of our parents, but it really pushed on that as what I wanted to do. And I keep telling people today that kids, like it starts from the house. It starts from the house. And you gotta sometimes, no matter what it is, if a kid walks up to you and say, hey mom, hey dad, great parent, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me tell you, when I grow up, I want to be. And no matter what it is today, the possibilities are out there because of what did not have back then. So a lot of it came with the dreams. A lot of it came with the hard work. A lot of it came with the journeys, the ups and downs that we had in our lives to accomplish these things. And it came about there. And the bottom line is that there's always going to be some setbacks. That is a setup for a comeback.
Amen.
you know. But look where we are now.
Yep. With you being a part of the ABA team, the Texas RedWolves, and your tenure in basketball, your legacy in basketball, how do you feel those two go hand in hand? Like, what do you see in basketball today with the Texas RedWolves when you're out there and you're coaching the team? What are some of the things that your coach used to instill into you that you seek to instill into your players that play for the Texas RedWolves?
Well, it starts way before the Texas Red Wolves. I grew up saying that the things that I've accomplished in my life, you know, it's time for me to give back. I want to give back to somebody in the name of our Lord and Savior. This is what he said. He gave me these things, and I have the ability to give back. I also, work for the Spurs, and I've been working for the Spurs for 39 years. And it's a great feeling to have all these players and people, just to come back and say, hey, I played for this guy here, not tell them who I was,
Right.
and being able to, work with these kids, watching them grow. It's funny that, in them 39 years, a kid will walk up, or a man will walk up and say, hey, do you remember me? And I said, no. Well, you working with me when I was 18 or 16 or 17. Whoa, now I have my child.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, just playing and God, I guess God said, Neville, you're not through yet. So along come this man. Now, still to this day, I've been working with this man for I think 4 years, and He has this team called, the Red Wolves. And I said, man, God, hey, this is what I like. I'm gonna take a chance with these guys. I'm still being able to give back. Try to help them. With some of my accomplishments. And even though you're at an age where you're done with high school, maybe you play some college basketball and you're done with it, but yet to still enjoy the game, but representing the game of basketball at the highest level. See, that's the most important thing now. We look at our athletes when they walk out the no, let me talk about my Red Wolves. When we walk out there on the floor, our motto is that we are an automatic impact to the people who are watching the games, to say that this is how the game has to play. Yes, there are going to be the ups and downs, because should I say, our attitudes get a little frosty, even mine at a certain time, But your character is what it's all about. And the work with the Red Wolves, it's not just the basketball that we deal with. We're out there in the community working with the kids. We have all types of programs. We have little galas and benefits. And Christmas we do something. All great holidays. They come to us. We putting that name out there. We have there are other ABA teams out there, but I'm not worrying about them. I worry about the Texas Red Wolves. And as long as we can maintain, our dreams, it's going to be a great team. There are going to be wins and and losses, but the character, the sportsmanship, and the giving back to others is going to be our main product to make that team go. And and then again, it's fun for me. Lord knows that they have to slow me down sometimes, because I try to overload myself, my ability, because I can't slam dunk anymore and I can't slide on the floor. But I work for this lady and man that has a strong vision, before I even got involved with them. And the things that they throw out me, and the secret of the game back then with that team, if you want to describe them in one word, cohesiveness. That's what put that team together. We knew each other, we worked with each other, we cried with each other. And the Red Wolves have that thing that we are a team that is cohesive. We try to not just find your ability on the court, but we also try to help them in various ways off the court. That giving back. And no matter what the accomplishments are at the end of the game, you can feel good and say that, well, I helped that person. I helped that person. And they come back and, we don't want to be, even today, even here, talking with you, sir, I don't want to pat on the back or anything. It's just one individual who's been blessed with things that I never thought in my life. Okay, I was able to play the game of basketball. All right, I was able to play in high school. I went to college and won a national championship. I was drafted number 4 by the Boston Celtics. I got halfway through that, going up for a layup shot in practice. My whole life went down the drain. I tore my knee up, cartilage, ACL. The worst thing in my life when I had to say, when I got that letter saying, I'm sorry, you no longer can be part of the, you know, NBA Boston Celtics. I called my mom and said, Mom, I got a problem. She said, what? I can't play basketball anymore. She said, what do you mean? I said, Mom, I got hurt. I can't play no more. They just cut me from the team. She said, settle down. She said, what do you have, baby? I said, Mama, what do you mean? What do I have? They called me all these things. I went through a whole lot of hell with these ball players. We won a national championship. Mama, she said, what do you have, Neville? And I had to slow down for a minute. And the worst thing in the world is when you have to admit that your parents are right. And I said, I got a college degree. She said, say it again, boy. I said, I got a college degree. She said, and I said, but she said, you can't play anymore. I said, no, sir, but God has another plan for you. Now it's time for you. Maybe you're not satisfied with it, but God says it's time for you to start giving back. Tell people about what the journey is all about. Tell them about that. There's no such thing as failure in life. Sometimes you got to go through the dark side to get to the light. That's what we're having now. I was put in the box, and a bunch of guys, we were reaching out in the box, trying to ask for, help for people who have made it, and they just walked past me. But I had that intestinal fortitude, I can say, to reach out there. And it might sound like it's a movie or something. I took one elbow after another, to pull myself out of that. And when I got out of there, I say that, well, I'm going to show you what it is to become, whatever you want to come. So what came out of it? Being a legend. But then again, throughout my giving back, it scared me to death of the things. I was able to work at several colleges and what have you, and I'm talking more than you're asking questions here.
Nice.
But you know, I all of a sudden I get a call one time, and they said, "Hello, my name is so and so from Walt Disney." Yeah, I said, "All right." Boom. I hung the phone up on them, and they said, uh, uh, they called back. Said, "Anything wrong?" I said, "Oh man, I ain't got time for this." You know what the is, And they said, "Wait a minute." So they started calling off names, our lawyer and athletic director. I said, "Okay. Well, we're interested in making a movie about your team, about you and your teammates." And I said, "Well, what's the name of this movie gonna be?" It's gonna be called Glory Road. If any of you people have not seen the movie Glory Road, I don't want to talk to you. Cut off your TVs, radios, whatever, because it's a great movie. The movie was made in 2008, and this is what? What year is this? What's this? 40 whatever we are now, right? And the movie is still great. I'm getting so excited now because of that movie. Hey, they made a movie about this basketball team. And I said, well, that's great. And let me tell you about the movie. My wife and I, after the movie was made, we walked the red carpet, at the Colgate Arena, I think it was a theater. And I was with my wife, and she had this dress, and this was in 2008, I think. She had this dress on that I'm still paying for to this day. And we walking down the red carpet, and about 10 feet in front of me was Alicia Keys. And I dropped my wife's hand and I walked over there to her. And my wife looked at me, "Are you crazy?" She said, "I'm gonna pay you back for this." But I said, "Baby, this is Alicia Keys." And she paid me back. She met, I think it was Tay Diggs and Julius Irvin. She pointed at me because one of those guys kissed my wife in the lips. But anyway, that's strictly off the record. And later on, after that, I get another phone call. And they said, "Congratulations, I'm from General Mills." And I said, "Yes, we want to put your picture on a box of Wheaties." I said, "What? A box of Wheaties?" Hey, I said, I could not believe it. They got a Wheaties, and Wheaties is called the breakfast of champions. I said, "Hey, praise God, my teammates and I, we are champions on a box of Wheaties." I couldn't beat that. I couldn't beat that. But my journey continued. This is after playing the game. When they say you're going to be something, go for the highest levels you possibly can. Got another phone call. Congratulations, Mr. Shed. You and your teammates are going to go have dinner with the President of the United States. I said, "What? The President of the United States?" The gentleman who was the President of the United States, I didn't vote for him, but it was the younger Bush.
Okay.
All right. And what really did not, I was excited, but would you believe back then when we won the national championship in 1966, the President of the United States was from Texas. He was from Texas. What's that? What's the name now? Look, I got so mad just thinking about him. He lived in Texas. It'll jump back in my head in a few minutes here. But he was from Texas, So we had dinner with the President of the United States. So I said, man, nothing else can happen behind that. And my granddaughter said, "Yes, it is, Grandpa." I said, "What?" "You can become a Hall of Famer." I said, get out of here. A Hall of Famer. Baby, do you know what a Hall of Famer is? That's what the greatest basketball players in the world, the Wilt Chamberlains, the Dr. J's, the Earl, the Pearls, you just keep naming them. Nah, that couldn't happen. But on I think it was September 7th, 2007, my teammates and I were inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, I could not believe this. Just as this young kid who had dreams a long time ago has Lyndon B. Johnson. That's the man right there. I knew it pop up in I wasn't around then. Yes, I was too, but I didn't vote for him. Anyway, you know, uh, I had this opportunity, and I tell kids today, whatever you want. You hear the story all the time about you better get a good education. How you represent yourselves. Stay healthy, get away from this, get away from that. If you hear it so often, it has to be right. It has to be right. From the news, the history that's around you every day, that's just a part of your life to take you to the journey that you want to be at. How you like that?
All right, folks. Well, and y'all have a new season coming up, correct? With the Texas Red Wolves.
Yes, we have. I'm gonna lie, and but I'll have it. I can put it on the screen. My manager will give you the dates
All right.
of those games that we have here, and we'll be looking forward to get as many people out of San Antonio and all the around cities to represent the Texas Red Wolves, and we guaranteeing you that it's going to be exciting.
I can imagine. So, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to make it out to some of the practices and some of the practice games,
Mhm.
and to see the amount of excitement and competitiveness in the atmosphere. I mean, me personally, if I'm off October 19th for their first game to go see the Texas Red Wolves, I'll definitely be in the bleachers to support y'all. October 19th. What's one of your most memorable games with them?
Hey, let me tell you, loving to hear people say, "Well, we don't know much about this team here, but wait till they come to play us. Wait till we have to play them." And we walk into the game positive. You walk into the game positive, and if we play as a team, you understand, and represent each other, and keep the attitude that at the end of the game, when you can walk up to your parents or to the coach and say, "Hey, I did my best. I put it all out there on the floor." You're gonna always be a winner, and that's something that we gotta have for our kids today in all sports. Mom, coaches, I did my best out there, and you'll always be a winner.
Well, it sounds like the camera. We just ran out of memory, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But we'll keep all the head part of it. We'll throw in we'll just slap a sticker on there, not a sticker, but like a screenshot, and let that in to finish it off. But sir, it's been an honor, and it's definitely been a pleasure to get to know you. It's been excellent to be able to go out and see you work with the players, pour back into the community. I love Glory Roads. I plan on reading the book as well. I look forward to having you on the podcast again in the future. And thank you for everything you've done for humanity, for the basketball, and for allowing God to work through you and through your team.
Yes, I just want to end by saying, dreams do come true. And the process is so very, very simple. One must walk by faith. I never say goodbye. My motto is to be continued. For if you have the blessings of God to try things just one more time, you will continue to take your level to any high of your imagination.